Have you ever felt like your relationship with God depends a little bit too much on someone else? Maybe a pastor, a mentor, or even a Christian friend. Well, spiritual codependency often hides behind things that look spiritual, like faithfulness, loyalty, service, but underneath it can keep us from truly walking in freedom. Let's talk about what this looks like in real life and why noticing these patterns in the first step is the first step to real healing. Hi, welcome back to Truth Walk. I'm Pietru and this is episode 3 in our series on spiritual codependency. So far, we've explored what spiritual codependency is and where it comes from. How our past, our pain, and sometimes even church culture can cause us to lean more on people than on God Himself. Well, today we're taking a deeper look at how these patterns show up, not just in church life, but especially in our relationships with spiritual mentors, leaders, or counselors. And we'll talk about why this can sometimes lead to spiritual abuse and the kind of trauma that can come from it. But this isn't about becoming suspicious of everyone in leadership. It's about becoming aware of unhealthy patterns so that we can grow stronger in faith and walk in freedom that God intended for us. Why is this so hard to see? Well, spiritual codependency often looks like being faithful, loyal, or servant-hearted. But the deeper question is, are you being led by love or fear? By freedom or pressure? Let's look at a few common patterns of spiritual codependency that might show up in our general church involvement. So pattern number 1, needing constant validation from leaders. For example, after serving, you feel anxious unless your pastor praises you. If they don't notice, you feel like you failed. Pattern number 2, the fear of disagreeing with leadership. For example, you stay quiet in Bible study even when you think differently, fearing you'll be seen as rebellious. Pattern number 3, always saying yes and never resting. For example, you take on every ministry request, even when exhausted, because saying no feels unspiritual. And pattern number 4, it's second-hand faith. For example, you rely on sermons and podcasts, but you don't trust yourself to read the Bible or hear from God on your own. Now let's go deeper, because spiritual codependency isn't just about church activities. It can happen in personal relationships with a mentor, a leader, or a counselor or Christian friend. These relationships often start well, with care, wisdom, and a desire to grow, but over time, you might find yourself needing their guidance for every decision, believing they hear God for you better than you ever could. Feeling guilty or afraid if you think about stepping away from the relationship. The mentor's voice can become louder than God's. For example, you're facing a decision, and instead of praying, you ask your mentor or your counselor or friend, and they tell you what God is saying, and you follow it without even seeking God for yourself. You begin to doubt your own ability to hear from God. Now, this can become a slippery slope from dependency to spiritual abuse, and sometimes this dependency can shift into control. A mentor or leader might even expect you to obey their advice without question. Use phrases like, God told me to tell you to direct your choices. They could make you feel guilty for having boundaries or doubts. This is spiritual abuse. It's when someone uses their spiritual authority to dominate, control, or manipulate your faith journey. Now, spiritual abuse can look like twisting scripture to shame or silence you, demanding loyalty above your own relationship with God, and making you feel like leaving the relationship is disobedience to God. Now, this can cause trauma. Spiritual codependency, especially when it becomes abusive, can leave very deep wounds. Emotional wounds, you can feel anxious, guilty, or even ashamed. You struggle to trust yourself or anybody else spiritually. It can cause spiritual wounds. You feel disconnected from God. You fear punishment or rejection if you try to break free from the relationship. You don't know how to pray or read the Bible without someone else's help. So why do people stay in these relationships? Well, it's not weakness. It's actually survival. Many who fall into spiritual codependency have experienced post-traumas like abandonment or rejection, a strong need for security or approval, church teachings that say questioning leaders is rebellion. And here's the truth, God never asked us to give someone else His place in our lives. God's heart for you is to be direct, free, and full of grace. John 10:27 says, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." You can hear Him, not just through others, but for yourself. God calls us to walk in freedom, not in fear. Let me say this clearly. This isn't about becoming hypercritical or suspicious of every leader, mentor, or counselor or Christian. There are many good, godly leaders who genuinely care for people and point them to Jesus in good, healthy relationships. This is about awareness so that you can grow in discernment, protect your heart, and stay anchored in God's voice and not just human voices. Do you see yourself in these patterns? Have you maybe depended on someone more than on God? Have you perhaps felt trapped in a spiritual relationship that left you confused or hurt? Just recognizing it is powerful, and you don't have to stay stuck. In the next episode, we'll explore how to break free from unhealthy spiritual ties, how to heal from spiritual abuse and reclaim your faith, and how to set boundaries while still staying open to healthy community. And then how to walk with God in confidence again. Healing is possible, and it starts with truth, grace, and God's love. If this spoke to you, please leave a comment below. Which part felt familiar to you? Let's walk this journey together. Let's walk towards freedom, towards healing, and a deeper trust in God. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you in the next video. God bless and goodbye.